It started as a joke. You know those mail-order DNA kits? The ones you get during a Black Friday sale because, hey, why not find out if you're 2% Viking or descended from royalty? Yeah, that's what I thought I was doing. My roommate and I bought the kits together, spit in the tubes, mailed them off, and joked about who had the weirder heritage. It was all fun and games until my results came back, and something was very wrong. I was expecting to see the usual, mostly European, maybe a mix of Irish and German like my parents always said. But instead, I got this. 48% Ashkenazi Jewish, 35% Eastern European, 17% West African. West African? I stared at the screen for a solid minute. Thought maybe there was a glitch. Maybe someone else's results got swapped with mine. But then I noticed something else. A DNA match, someone I didn't recognize. A woman named Shauna Green. It said we shared about 25% DNA, enough to be a half-sibling. Half-sibling? I immediately texted my parents. Me. Hey! Random question. Did either of you do a DNA test before? Mom. Nope. Why? Dad. What? Are you up to now? I didn't mention the half-sibling yet. I needed to think, so I clicked on Shauna's profile in the testing site. Her bio was vague. She lived 2 states over. Had 2 kids. No photos of her parents, but 1 photo of herself, maybe a few years older than me. Curly hair, brown eyes, warm smile. But most importantly, she looked nothing like my mom. And a lot like my dad. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept scrolling through old family photos, staring at my dad's features, the nose, the chin, the smile. Then I'd flip back to Shauna's picture. Same chin, same smile. I started spiraling. I remembered little things, stories my dad told about his wild college days, the way he'd clam up when old friends came up in conversation. I even remembered one time, when I was 11, overhearing an argument between him and Mom where she said, "You said she'd never find us." At the time, I thought they were talking about a debt collector or some relative I didn't know. Now I wasn't so sure. I finally messaged Shauna. Hey, this might sound weird, but we matched on DNA site. Did you do the test recently? She responded the next day. Hey, yeah, I did it a couple months ago. I was adopted, trying to learn more about my background. Looks like we're related? Adopted. My stomach sank. I asked if she knew anything about her birth parents. She said all she had was the paperwork from the adoption agency, a vague birth date, range, and a note in her file. Father unknown. Possible college student in Ohio, early 90s. My dad went to college in Ohio in the early 90s. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but everything was lining up too perfectly. I called my mom. Told her everything. There was a long pause on the line. Then she whispered, "You weren't supposed to know." You weren't supposed to know. That sentence hung in the air like smoke. Thick. Unsettling. Impossible to ignore. What do you mean? I asked, my voice sharp. She didn't answer right away. I could hear her breathing. Deep, shaky. Then, finally, she spoke. I didn't want this to be how you found out. She told me to come over, said this wasn't a phone call kind of thing. I drove over immediately. My stomach was in knots the entire way. And when I walked through the door, my mom looked like she'd aged 10 years in a single day. She sat me down at the kitchen table, the same table where I did my homework as a kid, where we celebrated birthdays, where Dad carved the turkey every Thanksgiving. Now it felt like the stage for a confession. Your dad and I met in college, she began. We started dating in junior year, and I thought we were serious. But I found out later he wasn't exactly exclusive. My breath caught. She said there was another girl, a freshman. They'd had a brief fling while she and my dad were on a break. One of those Ross and Rachel moments that never made it into our family scrapbooks. The girl got pregnant. She never told my dad. Or maybe she did. And he ignored. No one knew for sure, because the baby was given up for adoption before any of it could become real. That baby was Shauna. I only found out years later, my mom continued. She'd reached out to someone who knew your dad. She was asking questions. That's when he finally told me. I felt my pulse in my ears. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. Why keep it a secret? Her eyes welled with tears. Because it would have changed the way you saw him, and the way you saw us. We wanted to protect you. Protect me? I was angry, furious even. They lied to me for 25 years. They pretended our family was whole, when the truth was sitting out there, probably wondering why her own father never came looking. I couldn't even look at my mom. I asked her if Dad ever tried to contact Shauna, if he ever wanted to meet her. She shook her head. He said it was too late, that it was better if he didn't interfere in her life, that it was a closed door. Too late. I thought about Shauna, about the message she sent me. How hopeful she seemed. She wasn't trying to cause drama. She was just looking for answers, and the man who helped create her didn't even want to know her name. That night, I went home and messaged Shauna again. Hey, I talked to my mom. I think I know how we're connected now. I'm so sorry. You deserved more, she replied. Thank you, honestly. That means more than you know. I've spent so long wondering if I was a mistake. A mistake? That's how she saw herself. Because my dad never gave her a chance to feel anything else. The next morning, I confronted him. I asked him, point blank, did you know you had a daughter before me? He didn't deny it. Didn't even look surprised. He just nodded and said, yeah, I knew. But what was I supposed to do? Dig up the past? I stared at him, stunned. You were supposed to be a father, I said. He said some things after that, tried to justify it, said he wasn't ready, said it wasn't his choice, said he didn't even know for sure she was his. Excuses. All of it felt hollow. And in that moment, I realized something. This wasn't just a secret. It was a legacy of silence, one he fully intended to take to his grave. But now I had a choice to make. Do I tell Shauna everything? Do I open the door my father slammed shut decades ago, or do I walk away like he did? I didn't sleep much after confronting my dad. His words kept echoing in my head. What was I supposed to do? Dig up the past? The worst part? He said it like it was reasonable, like it was normal to abandon your own child and pretend she didn't exist because it was more convenient. That's when I knew I had to meet Shauna, not for him, for me, for her, for the truth. We decided to meet halfway. A quiet little cafe in a small town neither of us had any connection to. Neutral ground. I got there early and sat by the window, nervously stirring my coffee. I had no idea what I was supposed to say. Hi, sorry our dad is a coward. Hey, want to trauma bond over iced lattes? Then she walked in, and suddenly I didn't need to say anything at all, because she looked at me and smiled. We hugged. It was awkward, a little stiff, but real. We sat down and talked for hours. She told me about growing up, foster homes, adoption at age 4, loving parents who were honest about her being adopted, but never had much info on her biological family. She'd wondered for years, searched every database, every forum, every Facebook group for DNA matches, always hoping someone would show up. She said I was the first person who didn't ghost her. That hit me like a punch to the gut. She asked about our dad. I told her the truth. Not the glossy picture frame version. Not the cold, dismissive version. He gave me either. Just the complicated, messy truth. How he raised me. How he kept this secret. How he looked me in the eye and chose denial over accountability. I expected her to cry. Instead, she nodded. That's about what I figured. Then she said something I'll never forget. I don't need him to be a dad. I just wanted to know I came from someone, that I wasn't some ghost no one ever thought about. We exchanged numbers, promised to stay in touch. But as we were getting ready to leave, she paused. "You know," she said, "I did try to find him once." "Wait, you found him?" I asked. She nodded slowly. "I think so. Years ago, I sent a letter, no reply. But a few months later, I got a message from someone anonymous. All it said was, 'Let it go.'" Goosebumps rippled across my arms. My dad knew. He knew back then, and he tried to bury it all over again. That night, I sat in my car outside my parents' house for an hour before going in. When I finally walked in, I found my dad watching TV like nothing happened. I stood in front of him and said, "I met her." He didn't even look up. "You're Cole," he said, like it was nothing, like she was nothing. I didn't yell, didn't cry. I just turned around and walked out, and I realized something. This wasn't about finding out where I came from anymore. It was about deciding who I wanted to be. Shauna and I started talking regularly, texting, sharing baby pictures. She met my mom, who, surprisingly, apologized and cried harder than I've ever seen. We started becoming something like siblings. Not by blood, by choice. But here's the twist I never saw coming. A few weeks later, I got a message through the DNA site, a new match, close relative, and this time, it wasn't from Shauna. Just when I thought the dust was settling, when Shauna and I were finally forming a bond, when the anger toward my dad had dulled to a low simmer, I got a notification that made my stomach drop. New DNA match, estimated relationship, half-sibling. Again? This time, the name was Mark T. Age, 19. Location, Michigan. That made him 6 years younger than me, and based on the percentage of DNA we shared, there was only one possible explanation. Another child. Another secret. I stared at the screen in numbered sets of disbelief. Could this be a mistake? I messaged him. "Hey, I think we might be related. I matched with you on site. I'm just trying to understand how." He replied 2 hours later. "I don't know much. I was adopted, just trying to learn about my biological family. My records say my birth father was in his early 40s when I was born." My heart sank. My dad was 43 that year. I called Shauna immediately. "You're not going to believe this," I said. She did. Too easily, actually. "He probably never stopped," she said. "Your dad didn't bury a mistake. He buried a pattern." And just like that, the story I thought was about one secret daughter became something much darker. My father had made at least 2 children disappear from his life. What were the chances Mark was the last? I confronted him again. He didn't deny it. He looked me dead in the eye and said, "I made my choices. I don't owe anyone anything." That was it. No apology. No regret. Just that cold, empty logic he'd been using for decades to justify walking away from the people he helped bring into this world. I cut him off that night. Blocked his number. Deleted his contact. Told my mom I didn't want him in my life until he made things right. And since I knew that would never happen, I was ready to walk away for good. But even then, I didn't feel bitter. Because somehow, in all the mess, something good did come out of it. Shauna and I? We're close now. Mark too. Once the shock wore off, we started talking regularly, even planning to meet up this summer. We joke about how messed up our origin stories are. We're like the accidental Avengers, bonded not by heroism, but by one man's cowardice. But here's the truth. You don't get to choose who your family was, but you do get to choose who your family is.